Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your latest instalment of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Ray, the independent Rangers podcast made for fans by fans. And as always, all of our content is absolutely free. You can get us over at gersnet.co.uk, where you've got access to a lovely forum, some good articles, and a even better history archive as well. And you can also get us over at Gersnet Online on Twitter as well. We are live tonight on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. We'd ask that you like, comment and subscribe to the channel, get involved in the conversation and let everyone know about Gersnet. Just before I introduce my wonderful guest for this evening, I need to give an introduction and a shout out to our sponsors over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company, and they've been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years. We're absolutely delighted that they're backing our podcast. You can get them over at forrestprecisioneng.com, and you can also visit the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stands. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. So joining me tonight after Rangers Thursdays on this fun Friday. First up, Mr. Jamie Martin. Jamie, I don't think we've been acquainted before.
We haven't,
How you doing,
no.
sir?
I'm very well. Yourself?
I'm not too bad. At least we've got a point in Europe now, so it's better than the last few games.
First point on the board. Can't be bad, but being honest, I think we're a bit aggrieved that we never got 3 points, to be fair, in the end.
Aye, I think we're all like that, to be honest. Probably should have, but aye, it is what it is. Also joining us this evening, Mr. Ross Bennett, another veteran of Gersnet. How you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm just wondering, Ross, are you getting that lunch with Barry Ferguson in Budapest as part of your overall deal?
No. I decided. No, I'm sorted through the MyGers. I'll make them all, because I think to do that, I think you have to fly from Glasgow as well, which for me is not all that convenient. So no, I will. As much as I'd like to, I'm happy enough making my own way around Budapest.
That's all right. You're not on my list then. That's fine. Jamie, I'll start with you then, mate. Obviously we had a game last night, but the biggest news of this week was on Monday. First thing, pretty much a 12 o'clock tea time.
Yeah.
The sacking of Farewell and Stewart, and it wasn't a resignation. It wasn't he was all right, blah, blah, coming together. It was a sacking. On both of those decisions, what was your initial thoughts? And actually, a few days after it, do your thoughts remain the same?
Absolutely. I think like any decision we've had this season, every fan and anybody associated with Rangers will be relieved. I called it probably 5-6 weeks ago. I think most fans would have called for their head. Simply because you cannot make that amount of signings and for them to be 90% wrong. In my view, probably two of them. Of most recent times, Mikey Moore, unfortunately, he's injured at the minute, but he was looking as if he was coming good, playing in a 10 position. He looked really threatening going forward. Gassama, for me, I think at times he's been played out of position on the right-hand side. I don't think it suits him. I think when he's on the left, he's a handful. I think he's our most threat going forward. But barring those two, it's very hard to pick somebody out and say he's got pass marks. And you're looking at 12 players and you're looking at a sum of 20 million net spend. And for that kind of money to be spent and no return is beyond me. If he'd have been in my business in the agents world and signed 14 players and only had 2 shining, there have been serious questions asked in my office. I'd have had him in, I'd have sacked him well before now, to be honest.
But that's the thing, Jamie. We, obviously we can speak here as fans, but we all realise that in recruitment, and I'm speaking about Farewell here, you get things wrong. You will never get 100% hit rate, but you still expect it to be decent enough. And more so when it's at Rangers, where the players that you're signing should automatically be better than 90% of the players that they're coming up against in that league. And for it to be so wrong, words fail me, to be quite honest.
Yeah, there was hardly any improvement across the board. in any of the positions. In fact, I'll be honest, I thought we went backwards in terms of the signings. There was nobody really replaced anyone that you thought he's come in and really shone and looked as if he's going to be a real player for Rangers Football Club. I don't think they've done their homework on any of the players in terms of, I think they just took it as a gimme that these players would be signed from the Championship, etc. And they would probably come up here and I think they honestly thought that it was going to be a breeze. And in my world as well, in the agents' world, you don't get it right all the time. But I would be questioning myself if I'd signed 14 players and only 2 of them shone. I mean, you have to have a high percentage. You have to go for in our game, you'd have to go for about 75% of your players going in the right direction, so to speak. And recently, obviously, Danny Rio's been asked to do this traffic lights analysis of players. And listen, the 14 signings that Thelwell signed, there must be 12 red lights straight away.
Absolutely. Ross, I think Jamie's summed it up pretty perfectly there, to be quite honest. I mean, in terms of recruitment, I mean, dearie me, I've never seen anything as bad as that in my life. And that is not an exaggeration. And I know Rangers fans are prone to exaggeration from time to time. But Jamie said as well, we've went backwards. And if you think how bad this team was last season, to go backwards from that. And by the way, at the same time, it was still a team that managed to get to the Europa League quarter-final. Ross, you may have spoke about it.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for bad refereeing decisions in Spain, could have been at least a semi-final. So to go from that to where we are now, I mean, obviously Danny Rose won his first 4 league games in a row, but I mean, this isn't on him, by the way, what I'm about to say, but not very many of them have been convincing, bar maybe the Dundee game. I mean, I think that just sums up the level of recruitment that, you're winning games in Scotland against bang average teams and you're struggling to get over the line.
Yeah, and let's be fair. I think we got away with one last weekend with the penalty appeal for Livingston. Personally speaking, I think it not to say it should have been a penalty, absolutely could have been a penalty. So we're maybe a wee bit fortunate there. Jamie's absolutely right that I agree. I believe that Kevin Thelwell, if we focus on Thelwell, we can talk about Stewart in a moment. Thelwell has come from England, from an English background, and is, in my opinion, having never met the guy, is absolutely riddled with the classic English arrogance of they'll scoosh it up there. And so I've lived in England for 20 odd years. I work in England. It is the kind of English arrogance when it comes to football that you see every single day from people down here that are, football fans. And a good example of it is when it was becoming apparent that we were going to sign Yusuf Chermiti from Everton. The guy in my office is an Everton fan. I spoke to him, said, what's he like? He said, he's been injured a lot, but he's lightweight, doesn't really have any pace. He's not really scored any goals, but I think he'll do well for you. And you go, well, you've just listed everything that's wrong with him, but you think he'll do well for us because we're in Scotland, right? He's playing in England and he's not good enough, but he'll be good enough for Scotland. And it's the kind of decision making that makes you take Nasser Jigga because, well, if he's good enough for Wolves, he's good enough for you. Even Manny Fernandez, if he's good enough for Peterborough, he's good enough for you. And it's so frustrating because every single fan could see it coming. Every single fan knew that that's what would happen. Every time we dipped back to the Championship, every single time that we were linked with another player from England, we all go, this isn't the right market because we've seen it before, and we've just been so heavily reliant on it. You do have to wonder what comes next in terms of the staff that Thelwell brought with him, the Purdies, the other Thelwell, that kind of thing. We'll have to wait and see. The other one is Patrick Stewart. It's a difficult one because we'd gone from James Bisgrove, or actually, so let's go back one step further. You've gone from Stuart Robertson to James Bisgrove. Bisgrove goes off to Saudi Arabia, and the fans would we want to divert away from the Bisgrove type, so you don't want a shiny suit English salesman. So you want someone with a lot more experience, and you go and get a guy from Man United. Actually, on paper, a Scottish guy who's worked at an elite club, sounds good, but it was just the wrong guy. He was just the wrong guy for that, and I think that was borne out in certain things that we saw, whether it was the that rash statement that came out after the Old Firm game, the Graham Souness tifo. It was just a few things that showed it wasn't working. So I don't know what comes next. I was a little surprised at the timing of it all, given that we just come out of an international break. Thelwell had sat down for one of his interviews with Rangers TV. I was very surprised at the timing of it, but I'm delighted with where we've got to.
Well, I was surprised with the timing of it as well, but strong, decisive leadership, is that the words we want to attribute to Andrew Kavanagh? I mean, Jamie, strong, decisive leadership is certainly not something we got under Patrick Stewart. For me, he just, and I don't want to sound like a Rangers dad, he never got it. To me, we all see it in our working lives where you see people in certain positions of power in a workplace and you go, why on earth are you in that position? And then you realise it's maybe because you just hang about with the right people. They hang about with the power sources rather than doing it themselves. And I mean, I look at the stuff. Look, I don't know what he done at Man U before, but at Rangers, I cannot tell you one good thing that he done to improve the club on the pitch or off the pitch. And if you're running the business, if you're running the club, if you're doing both of them, you at least need to show a wee bit of signs of improvements. He had a year in the job. Thelwell was in for 3 or 4 months. That was a complete disaster, obviously. But Patrick Stewart was here for about a year. And it just seemed like in all the big moments, he failed. I mean, his first big moment was he came into office right after the League Cup final last season, after the Chernley penalty incident. And it was like the biggest open goal in the world. And he done a Rangers TV interview saying, this was a terrible decision. Right, that's great. We all know that. What are you going to do about it? He didn't do anything about it. And then when you see the decision at the game at Hampden a couple of weeks ago with Austin Trusty, you basically just get the same statement copied and pasted from a year ago. And he didn't do anything to improve the club on or off the pitch.
No, I think the signs for me, the first initial signs, apart from all the signings, etc., that went completely wrong, when they had were sit down with all the press, and Thelwell, and to a certain extent, Stewart were getting cross-examined by all the press in the press conference. And this is when he signed, I think it was a couple of days after he'd signed his boy to come in as chief scout. So they were under huge scrutiny then. But I actually think Andrew Kavanagh, I think that was the start of the downfall for those two. I mean, I called them Laurel and Hardy because I just thought they got us into another fine mess. Every other week it was, God, what's going on now? They managed a lot of situations wrong for me. Even Hamza Igeman's situation was completely handled wrong. They could have got more money from him in the end if they had dealt with the situation a lot, in my view, a little bit brighter, and should never have let him go. They should have held on to him. They're a better team round Hamza and made him a number 9. I think he was clearly had ability, and they should have built a team around him, as I said. And I think a year down the line, they'd probably get 20 million for him. Look what he's done over in France now. He's hit the ground running. He's playing in his rightful position, playing every week. And that's what happened to Rangers in the beginning with Russell Martin. They were playing too many players out of position, too many players completely out of position, particularly on the left-hand side. We had, Max Aarons going back to that. Suter was playing left. Raskin was way out of position. It was all over the place. However, Danny Rowe's come in, and I think, to be fair to Danny Rowe, he's kind of noticed that he's got players playing in the rightful position. He's dropped a few players completely that I would have dropped after 2 or 3 games, the likes of Joe Rodwell and Max Aarons and that. I just didn't think we're Rangers class. And looking at the squad at the minute, I think we're 3 or 4 on the bench at the minute who, for me, should be playing a little bit more than they are. Bezrami, I would probably look at bringing him in as a 10 behind Miovski. I would give that a go, and I would play probably, if Moore's fit, I'd play Moore, and I'd play Gassama in that role, and I would play definitely Barron and Raskin together in the deeper role, protecting a back three. I don't think the four suits us at all at the back. Personally, I don't like the four. I like the two up front. I like a little bit more options up front. But getting back to Kevin Fairwell, I mean, I had dealings with him quite a few years ago at Everton in the agents world. A colleague of mine, Tony Finnegan, had a player at Crystal Palace, Yannick Balassi. He went to Everton for 33.5 million in the end. Kevin seemed a nice enough guy, but interestingly enough, I had a good chat with David Moyes myself a few years back when the deal was done. And on the QT, he kind of said to me, "He won't last here. I'm bringing one people in, and you'll have to deal with me in future." So I kind of the red lights started ringing then, and I went, when I saw him getting involved with Rangers, I went, "Oh dear, this is not a good sign." And it's proved he lasted more than I thought he would have. But sometimes things take longer. I mean, in my view, and that could have been done 6-7 weeks ago, getting shot of him. But my sources tell me.
But here's the thing, Jamie. Do you think
his contract was
obviously Kavanagh, he's the one, with all the cards here, and he's made the decision. But as you've said, he should have made that decision. For me, after the Bruges debacle, not just with Fairwell, but with the manager as well.
Yeah.
Don't mean to go all Dr. Seuss, Fairwell, the manager as well there, but at the same time, we've spoke about Fairwell underestimating Scotland, Russell Martin underestimating Scotland and Rangers.
Yeah.
Do you think perhaps Andrew Cavan has underestimated Rangers, and only now he is beginning to realise the sort of gravity of what he's gotten himself involved with?
Yeah, I think that's very evident. I think he's obviously been at Ibrox quite a few times. I think he's obviously taken note of the fans, because the fans have hounded basically Russell Martin out, and rightly so. And secondly, the board, as in Fairwell and Stewart, are gone. They must have been sitting in the stand at times thinking, Jesus, I've got to react on this, because at the end of the day, the fans are the most important people for the club. The fans don't turn up, they don't pay money. If you don't pay money, you don't get good players on the pitch, and you don't get results. So he's had to be able to act. He's no option. Surprising that he kind of the timing on it, but from what I hear from my sources, it's not as easy to get rid of people straight away. They have to look at all the logistics in terms of the contract. I know Fairwell was on, I'm hearing 300 grand a year plus bonuses on a 3-year deal. So it's not as easy to push people out the door. You have to, do your homework on the contract. And I know his contract was watertight. So they've obviously came to some agreement and paid him off, which, good riddance in the end, because he just wasn't good enough for his job. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to Patrick Stewart and Kevin Fairwell, Ross, because they've actually made Rangers fans agree on one thing for once. I mean, God, what's that old adage about? If you crash a plane on a deserted island with two people, you probably have 3 Rangers supporters clubs. Such is the life of Rangers supporters. But I mean, as it was so obviously unanimous by, I think, pretty much every single supporter. I could not tell you one Rangers fan that wanted either of these men to continue in their positions at the club.
No, and it was complete arrogance in appointing his son at the time he did. I mean, at the time, we've only really, we weren't in a flow of winning matches and stuff like that. And I think I mentioned this previously. At Real Madrid, Carlo Ancelotti done it. He brought his son in. But they were winning Champions Leagues. They were winning the Ligas. So the lad flew under the radar. But to bring Robbie Fairwell in a position like that, under the conditions that they were playing in, with absolutely ridiculous timing. And I think that was the nail in the coffin in the end for him.
Yeah. And, for me, it's it's difficult now because a new sporting director has to come in. Do they stay with the existing scouting setup that we've got, that I guess is led by Purdy and Thelwell Jr.? We're 5 weeks away from a transfer window. We're 5 weeks away from a transfer window where we need reinforcements, and last night proved that. Last night proved that we are really shaky at centre half, and we're really shaky up front. Actually, I think the midfield looked really pretty good last night, in my opinion. But we're at the point now where, and it's clear, we don't score enough goals, and we've got massive defensive frailty. And what worries me is, so I know Fraser Thornton steps in as interim chief executive, so there's some at least some continuity there, and whatever sign-off structures in place will carry on, I'm sure, and that's all fine. But it's who actually now has responsibility, because I understand bringing in Danny Rule, he's and Russell Martin before, he's a head coach, he's not an old school manager that's picking players, identifying players and signing players. So who is putting those? If Danny Rule gets given sort of short lists or panels of players and is allowed to select the ones that he wants, who's putting that panel to him now? Who's setting the overall strategy of recruitment at the club? Who's setting
Sorry, Ross, but in terms of that, I mean, I think in terms of setting overall strategy for January, it probably will be the manager right now. But you know, we can't lie. Like, the guys underneath Thelwell are still here at the moment. So as much as we all say, you know, Thelwell's a dud, you know, he still, you know, appoints people to do his work as well, and those people are still there. So, you know, when we say, oh, it's Thelwell's man, but is it really Thelwell's man, or is it just someone that Thelwell really trusts, who said to Thelwell, oh, I really like the look of this player, you know, you need to sign him, blah, 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 blah. So those people are still there. The one thing that I really like about Danny Rule is, and Andrew Kavanagh mentioned this in his opening press conference, he said Danny has an edge to him, and I can kind of see what he means now, if you know what I mean. I think when he first came in, most supporters were thinking, I mean, I wasn't happy on paper. I was going, all right, a guy we were interested in the summer, you know, he's just taking the job because he thinks he can get on the Rangers gravy train. I mean, to all intents and purposes, obviously being careful what we're saying here, I think the actions of the last week, I think Danny Rule has had a very important input into the decision making of Andrew Kavanagh. And to be quite honest, I think he's probably went and looked at a lot of these players that we have signed in the summer and went, nah, they're no for me. And then obviously the planning for January will be already underway. And he's probably gone, no. And the thing is, as much as Danny, what is he, 36 or something like that, he's a young guy, but he's not stupid. You don't become the assistant manager of Bayern Munich or the assistant manager to the German national team if you've not got something about you. You know, if someone like Hansi Flick can trust Danny Rule, then, you know, it tells you that he's got something about him.
Yeah.
So I think that I agree with you, Craig. It gives me confidence, because I was the same as you, that on paper I didn't think this was the right guy to lead the team. And there were other candidates that I think that were interviewed that I was quite excited by, and that never happened. That being said, he's worked extremely hard, and I think last night was a really, really good example of demonstrating. I don't know. There was a different edge to the team yesterday. Certainly for the first hour, there was pressing, there was organisation, there was shape, there was trust between the players that we didn't see under Russell Martin. And so, if you're right, he's got an extraordinarily impressive CV as a coach. He's well travelled, and he's also, despite obviously us taking him from Sheffield Wednesday, I feel that he is unlikely to be so focused on picking up players from the second and third tiers of England. And it's a real bugbear of mine that we have not been sharp enough in sort of other markets, more obscure markets, or in my eyes, more valuable or better value for money markets. I hope we can do that this January.
Hopefully. I think that's really important for the club to move forward. I don't even think they look close to home, to be honest. They look in England first.
Yeah.
There's been some players on their own doorstep of recent times.
Yeah.
The likes of Lewis Ferguson. I speak to Derek regular, Rangers guys, and Derek would love his son to be. He's obviously at Bologna at the minute, but they missed out on him. They had him as a kid, and then they let him go. Went and followed his career at Hamilton, went to Aberdeen, and there's been Lennon Miller. There's been people like that, and let's not beat about the bush. They could have gone and got these boys for, £2 to £3 million at the time, and they've went and spent a lot of money. Listen, we could go through the whole list that Thelwell signed, Asgards of this world. Even Danilo for me. He's not for me. Not for me. Not that kind of money.
I like his dad, but that's about it.
Well, his dad's good. He's good at celebrations. So, but there's a long list of players. I mean, you're talking players here between £3 to £5 million, £6 million.
And Jamie, it's a lot of money. See, obviously, you think, let's take Danilo for example, right? Or he only cost £6 million, right? People think it's just a transfer fee, but that's a 4-year contract on 25, 30, probably even more than that a week. Do you know what I mean? So a £6 million player in reality is a £12 million player over the period of his contract.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's been a lot of money wasted. We all know that. You could get through the whole list now, and you could do your sums. But really, the recruitment has to be better. I think I mentioned a couple of names previous. I think it's really imperative that Rangers get somebody on the board, like a Graham Souness, and they just missed out on one that I actually touted about a month ago. David Weir would have been ideal for that position. We've got a couple of players at Brighton, Solly March, and we had a couple of players, and we know David really well, done business with him in the past at Brighton, and his track record there is unbelievable. The players he's moved on, you only need to look at the players that Chelsea signed. McAllister going to Liverpool, João Pedro, and these guys, Caicedo going to Chelsea. We're talking hundreds of millions of pounds he made for Brighton. And it's no surprise that Strasbourg snapped him up, because the Chelsea guys, the American owners, own Chelsea and own Strasbourg. So they went for David and put him in a position there and went, let's have him. This guy knows what he's doing in the transfer market. He's a clever guy. He's astute. He knows he's got an eye for a player. He's got, as we mentioned earlier, he's got scouts all over South America and all over the world, scouting a big network where they're getting players in at reasonable prices, and they're moving them on, and they're making massive money.
Yeah. Jamie, something that maybe just to sort of pick your head over in this one. I mean, you've mentioned a lot of things there that I think 90% of Rangers fans want. You're talking about the homegrown players, the Fergusons, the Shanklins, getting guys like Davy Weir in. It's obvious. It's so obvious. But why is it, since we have came back up, basically since Walter Smith left, that we're not making these obvious moves for whether it be managers, coaches, players? I don't understand it, because it just seems to be like we always miss out on someone. Like we let someone go, or we let someone slip through the net, and it's happened so many times, but over at least a decade, and it's so frustrating.
It's very frustrating, but I don't know if it's a bit of snobbery that's been mentioned a few times. They kind of think, we've got to look elsewhere. But as I said, there's been some quality players come through in Scotland that they could have had, and they've overlooked them. But sometimes I think the transfer market in Scotland, I think a lot of clubs, particularly what I would say is, if Rangers and Celtic kind of prick their ears up at some of the players, they kind of raise the value of the players. It goes up £2 million automatically. And sometimes Rangers and Celtic are held to ransom in Scotland, and they think, really, the transfer fee for this guy should be £2 million. It then goes to £4 million, and then they go, nah, let's not do it. But the frustrating thing is, they've gone down and buying players for the same kind of money. The list goes on for years. It's been happening for decades. Guys, the amount of guys are signing for £3 to £4 to £5 to £6 million, and they're not in the same class as some of these kids. And some of the guys that they've got for free, they've got Lyle Cameron and Barron for free. They should be playing these guys more minutes. When they play, I think they've got something about them. I just think it was very clear to see that whilst Kevin Thelwell was in charge there, he was clearly playing the players. He had a big input in who was playing. I have no doubts about that. He definitely had an input, because none of the guys on the bench, if you had a look at the Rangers bench in the last 4 or 5 weeks, you can go through the whole bench and go, not one of them was Kevin Thelwell signings. He was trying to justify his signings every week in, week out. And they were running out of chances. How many games do you give Asgard? How many games do you give, Chermiti to try and prove herself? At some point you have to go, no, this is just not good enough. Look yourself in the mirror and say, do you know what? I've made a mistake here. I need to do something about this. I can't play this guy every week trying to justify the signing that I've made for that kind of money. I think they need to look closer at home, start bringing some young players in. Finlay Curtis as well. I can't believe he wasn't even involved last night. That was an ideal chance to give that boy some minutes. That boy's played a tenth of a minute of our strikers, and he scored the same amount of goals as some of them. He scored 3 goals, and that's mad to think he's played 10% of minutes that our 3 strikers have started, and that's Miovski, Chermiti, and Danilo. He scored as many goals. And then again, we've got Tav, who's right back. He's a top scorer again. 4 goals and top assists. I mean, he's been doing that for years, and he gets slaughtered. And a lot of Rangers fans slaughter Tav. But you look at his return going forward. We know his frailty's going backwards. But sometimes you look at, and to be honest, the signings that they had on loan, there's only Mikey Moore really done it for me. A lot of them can go. They're not good enough. De Giga, for me, is an absolute bomb scare. How he's playing week in, week out is just beyond me. The guy can't even time a ball that's come 60 yards against Livingston on Saturday. He's wrong side. He caused a calamity, James, way back in the beginning of the Europa, where him and Butland didn't communicate. 1 ball over the top again. It happened against it Mirren as well. 1 ball over the top. And then the other night, that ball just get looked. It was just a hit and hope in the box. How he can't read the ball and time his jump is beyond me. He get caught under it. He's just not good enough. Simply that. And I think anybody playing next to him just has no confidence in De Giga, and he has to go.
Yeah. No, I agree completely, Jimmy. I mean, Ross, in terms of the game last night, I mean, I actually thought we done fairly well until that one individual mistake by Giga. And then it was almost as if after that we just went back to default, protecting us, this, that, and the next thing, coming up against 10 men. I mean, look, Jamie spoke about Giga enough. I mean, obviously, if you want to speak about him, you can. But I mean, this is what I don't understand. Guys like him, Max Aarons, these are Premier League players we're talking about here. Well, supposed Premier League players.
Supposedly.
And I mean,
supposedly.
And
they're supposedly Premier League players, but I think they struggle. Listen, they've obviously played.
I think it's mentality. I mean, well, you say mentality. I mean, is it mentality that causes Giga to make that mistake last night, and God knows however many other mistakes that he's made as well? We've heard Max Aarons' comments a few times before, but I just don't understand it with some of these players, and also as well, in terms of fellow, and this is on him, like the loans to permanent signing ratio is just utterly ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think Magoma looks okay. I think he might be a decent enough player at times. He's not quite Max Aarons bad, but at the same time, he's no amazing. He's like borderline pass marks, if you know what I mean.
Again, for me, he's got defensive frailties.
He does. No, you're right. He
brilliant
does.
Going forward. He's just like Tav on the other side. He's a young Tav. He's great going forward. Ask him to defend, and you're asking questions. I don't think he's physical enough. Although he's young, I'll give him that. He is young. But for me, the whole defence can go. Every one of them. They're not Rangers class. And we seem susceptible to any ball in the box every week we cannot deal with. because nobody's got the confidence, and they've no leaders at the back that can go and just dominate the ball in the air and go and attack a ball in the air and be a real leader. And for me, the whole defence can go. I think we need to look at that in January. That'd be my first thing I would look at. We need to get centre back.
You build to the back, don't you?
Absolutely. It was done that years ago. Graham Souness done it from the back. You set your stall out for the back. You get a good goalkeeper. I believe we've got a good goalie. He made 2 great saves in the first 15 minutes last night, by the way, and kept us in it. And he's done that all season. He's been by far our best keeper. He's been, a couple of times, he's had his wee wobbles. But I'll tell you what, on the whole, if it wasn't for Jack Butland this season, we could have been in a hell of a lot worse position. As I said, he's pulled 2 one-on-one saves last night. We end up getting a penalty against the run of play. They were on top at that minute in time. We get a wee bit of a break that we probably were looking for at the time. It definitely hit his hand. It's definitely a penalty in the eyes of the law these days. We go and take the penalty. Tav tucks it away, sends the keeper the wrong way. A great time to go 1-0 up just before the half-time whistle. Second half, we created chances. We came out on the front foot. We created 2 or 3 chances. We never really took our chances. Again, we're not ruthless enough in front of goal. We could have been 2 or 3-0 up in the second half, quite early on, to be honest. On the 45 to 60 minutes, we were creating chances. Then they get the man sent off. Raskin's been clever. He's kind of, put his head towards, not towards him. He's put his head, kind of brushed his head against him. The guy got sucked in and got sent off. He's done him. It's a professional thing he's done. He said, well, I'm going to get this clown sent off. And he reacted. His head went forward. It's a clear sending off. Zalazar it was. And rightfully so. He got a red card. Then 70-minute mark, we're looking like, we can see that poor goal from a hopeful ball in the box, as I mentioned earlier. Zaziga just missed time in his jump. Can't read, the flight of a ball. And Tav got caught a wee bit covering. If he'd maybe been across and cleared that, guy nips in and scores. And we're back to 1 each. That was Martinez who slotted it away for the 1-1 draw. But Diomande then gets a red card. I thought that was a wee bit harsh. Is it probably, in everybody's eyes, it's probably a second yellow, to be honest. But I thought it was a wee bit harsh. Jamie, is the referee trying to make up?
Does he need to do it? It's one of those ones. It's an enough area of the pitch, and
you're
on
correct.
paper, put it this way: there's been 5, group stage Europa League matches this season, 3 at Ibrox. Diamande's managed to get himself sent off in 2 of them.
Yeah.
So the first game 100% against Genk, stole the jerseys. Ross, we may as well just have a wee word about Dio here. I mean, the guy's got ability. It's quite obvious he's got ability, but he just seems to be in this sort of new breed of Rangers player where he'll play well when it suits him, when he wants to play well. He's got ability. Ability only gets you so far at Rangers. You need to have it up there. And for me, he's just not got it up there to be a proper Rangers midfielder.
It's a really frustrating player to watch at times because he's possibly our best player on the ball in terms of his technical ability with the ball. I can remember instances, and there were a couple last night, where if Diomande doesn't want you taking the ball off him, you can have 3 or 4 of their boys around, he will hold on to that football and almost has a little touch of the Joe Aribos in some cases. I find him frustrating. I find him. I would actually put him in the same bucket as a Yanis Hadji. I would put him arguably in the same bucket as a Jedi Gassama. Players that are good enough, players that are technically good enough, but players that, for one reason or another, whether it's that is it an attitude, is it a mentality? I don't know. It's certainly a lack of consistency, and I agree. It felt like a harsh red card. It felt like a red card that didn't need to be, but by the letter of the law, it was a second yellow, and I don't think I can necessarily argue with it. I think last night, in general, though, and obviously we've spoken at length about what's kind of wrong with Rangers and what's been wrong with Rangers the past 6 months. I was similar to Danny Rule in his comments after the game. I was quite encouraged by a lot of last night, particularly the first half, probably the first hour. I actually enjoyed watching the game. I thought it was entertaining football. and I could see for the first time, particularly off the ball, I thought we looked excellent. I thought our shape was really good. I thought we were well disciplined. I just thought we were night and day compared to what we saw under Russell Martin.
Yeah.
The problems are glaringly obvious. It's that we cannot put the ball in the back of the net. We do not have a striker that will finish it, and we don't really create enough either. Now, to go back to what Jamie Martin said a moment ago, Hamza Egeman in that team, Hamza Egeman would have had 4 goals last night. I'm utterly convinced of it.
Yeah.
But you know,
Cyril Dessers would have had 4 goals last night.
He would have done, and it's really, really, really frustrating to see the downgrades. That being said, I was encouraged last night, and I enjoyed watching it last night up until 60 minutes. Actually, up until their red card. And again, I'm not a tactician. I'm not a coach. I am not a smart enough man to understand if Braga changed something. Maybe Braga at that red card, maybe they changed something, and that, you know, freaked us out, and we couldn't cope with it. But they went down to 10 men, and we seemed to stop pressing. We seemed to stop hassling them because their press was working. It was really putting them under pressure, and they were really struggling to cope with it. For whatever reason, they go down to 10. We make a load of subs, and it just changed. The game kind of died at that point, and it was quite clear that nothing else was going to happen. We could have played on for another hour, and I don't think we would have scored a goal. But all of that being said, it was the first time last night that I thought, other than the game against was it Pilsen qualifier Champions League, first time I thought we looked pretty good actually. Yeah. And I'm not going to say I was happy, I was content. And I to go back to what I said earlier this evening, Danny Rowe was not the guy I wanted, but Danny Rowe has certainly earned my respect. And I'm quite enjoying actually what he's been. I'm quite looking forward to Sunday, and I've not been able to say I've been looking forward to a game this season at all. So, it's all of that being said, it's extraordinarily frustrating to be 1-0 up against a fairly weak European opposition at home. They go down to 10 and you don't win the game.
Yeah,
you know, there's not really any excuse for that. And I did go to bed last night feeling a wee bit bitter, but I've woken up this morning in a slightly better mood.
It's definitely improved under Danny Rowe. There's no doubt about that. We didn't see any improvement under Russell Martin whatsoever in any department for me. But he's come in. I'm not getting carried away. I think I mentioned this the other night. You've got to look at the opposition we've played recently. Apart from Roma and Celtic in the semi-final, that were real tests on paper. We've got to bear in mind and keep our feet in the ground. We've played Kilmarnock. They're in the bottom 3. We've played Livingston, beat them, bottom 3. And Dundee as well. Yeah, this is 3 teams at the bottom of the league. So we should be winning those games. Hands down. No doubt about it. We've got Falkirk on Sunday. We drew 1 each. Incidentally, that was the Russell Martin walk of shame across the pitch where he had to get escorted away from the ground. That was his, the last straw for him. We drew 1 each. I think we were very fortunate to get a draw in the end. We actually took the lead against the run of play, and they scored an equaliser. And in actual fact, Falkirk played really well. They're only a position behind us. I know we've got a game in hand. They're a couple of points behind us. So, listen, for Danny Rowe to come in and work with players he's got and not make any signings, and to win 4 games in the spin, get our first point in Europe last night, and there was a massive improvement last night. I'll give him that, because I've never come away from a European night this season and went, God, we looked as if we should have took the 3 points there. And that was the first time last night I thought we're really undone. I thought for them to be 5th in that league and for us to be bottom of the pile at 36, I didn't see 31 places between us and Braga. Not last night, no chance. So for me, there's a wee bit of positivity there. And I think we just need to get games under our belt, get more confidence. I think if he gets the back 3 right, for me, the players, he has to play a 3-5-2 system for me with the players we've got. And that's going to be a challenge on Sunday, because what does he do? Does he keep playing Giga? Does he keep playing him? He's so susceptible to make mistakes. As I said, he's Is a mistake waiting to happen every game now? Does he play Tav in there and bring Max Aarons in at right back? Who knows? He's got a big decision to make. But fair play to him. Listen, he's having to work with what he's got there, and he's getting results. So again, we've got to back the guy, and I hope he gets into January, and I hope the club back him, because there's no doubt about it. We need to go and get some sort of centre back that's going to command and lead from the back. We probably need to go and get a left back as well. Striking department, I think we have to maybe look at offloading and get another striker in as well, because we are definitely, you're right what you said there earlier, by the way, we are not ruthless enough in our own box, commanding balls in the air, and we're not ruthless enough at finishing in the opposition box. Midfield, fun enough, Scotland's the same at the minute. We look a little bit shaky at the back, and we've got nobody up front, and Rangers is exactly the same. The midfield looks decent. But listen, let's go and get 3 points on Sunday, and we keep the pressure on it. Only we go and win that game in hand. Literally, it's a game in hand to us. We're only 6 points off the pace. And I'll tell you what, if we'd have said that 2 months ago, I would have thought you were mad.
Well, am I right in saying that on Sunday, 2 hours before we kick off, Celtic have got to go to Hibs?
Yes.
Which is, it's being billed as Martin O'Neill's big fond farewell.
That'll be a test.
That'll be a real test. That will be a real test, because Hibs are a bit up and down. I actually really rate their manager, I have to say. I think David Gray's a good coach. They'll be well organised, they'll be well drilled, and Hibs are the kind of team that they know that Celtic are vulnerable.
Yeah.
So that will be a test. You can just imagine that Celtic lose that and we go out and beat Falkirk. The optics of the outlook for the rest of the season is just so different. So we could have
points win prizes, as they say. Points win prizes.
That's exactly it.
I love how we're talking about Celtic when it's Hearts that are still top technically. But for how long? No,
not long. I mean, what are they? They're 1 win in their last 4, I think.
The wheels have come off a wee bit for Derek McInnes.
Yeah, they have
a wee bit. But that's the thing. But I mean, we're going into December now, and is it a 3-horse race at the top of the Scottish Premiership? I mean, I think you've literally got all fans of, well, not all fans, but sections of Hearts fans, Rangers fans, and Celtic fans saying, "Well, I think news are going to come this that place." Do you know what? See, to be honest, for a neutral, it's interesting, but I don't want interesting. I just want us to win every game and be 40 points clear at the top of the league.
Listen, it's still mathematically possible. If you'd have said to any Rangers fan 6-7 weeks ago, we'd be sitting third, and we're still in the hunt. We're still.
The thing is, all we can do. I mean, it's simple, but football is simple. So just keep winning games. And then in a month, 2 months' time,
I think we just get a bit of consistency. We touched on it earlier. There's so many players. There's something about them. You can tell they've got something.
Why is it that see the likes of Asgard and Ant-Man? Sorry, how is it they're so good when they play for Norway and Finland, but when they play for us? Is it a mentality thing? Do you think that might be it? Because there is obviously something there. And I mean, I know we all slag Asgard, but I mean, he must have something about him.
You can see the lad's technically got something. He's one of them players for me. I look at him and I watch him. He's got a touch. He's got a presence about him. He can shield the ball very well. He looks after the ball quite well. He just seems to float in and out games for me. He doesn't really affect the game in a way that he should. And I'll be honest, I think he's one of them players you look at and go, what is his best position?
You don't know. And also with a guy like that, I want him to take games by the scruff of the neck. See if it's a scrappy 0-0, you're wanting him to take the ball and do something. Yeah. I mean, he scored a cracker of a goal against Dundee United about a month ago, and you're thinking, all right, here we go. But that's what you need, guys like that in the team that will just, when you're playing rubbish and whatnot, he just does something. But I mean, how many players have we got now that just do something? I mean, Tav is maybe the only one there that does, but apart from that, you're struggling, aren't you?
Yeah, you're struggling, especially with Mikey Moore missing. He really looked as if he was coming into a real run of form, particularly against Dundee. He absolutely ran the show against them, playing as a number 10. Mm-hmm. He was clearly played out of position under Russell Martin. I think he's seen him as a wide player. He's not a wide player. He plays as a 10 for the England setup at under 21s and Tottenham. He was playing in that position, and that's clearly his position. I would just like to see Bezrami, Gassama and Mikey Moore playing as the three behind Miovski. I think that's the way forward for Rangers. I think if they get all them fit, I would be really looking at starting that setup up front. The three of them, I think, will create chances for Miovski. That would be my preferred four up front. The one up front with those three behind, I think, would create chances.
Well, can't have any worse of it. We've been served up in the last few months anyway, so you're as well do it. But I think that's a good point to finish up on there. Guys, as I say, we're live on YouTube this evening. I'll be back on Sunday with Ben to hopefully review a victory over Falkirk. Before I leave you guys, all that's left to do is thank my guests for joining me. Jamie, thanks for joining me.
Not a problem. Thanks, guys.
Absolute pleasure. And Ross, as always, thanks for joining me, mate.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to the viewers at home. Have a good night. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Good night. Cheers.